Great.
I'm going to not spotlight you.
All right. Cool.
Just doing some technical setup, and the play was about to begin. I hear the anticipation.
Great.
I'm going to not spotlight, and I got to turn that down. We're recording on YouTube as well. And okay, here we go. Getting ready. Welcome to the debut, a fusion of storytelling and play, where our motto is there's beauty in the beginning, and we have three amazing storytellers that will tell a brand new story for you. And after that, it doesn't stop. We engage in playful practices with that crazy practitioner of play, Kevin Cordi. That would be me. And I just love it that we have these three accomplished storytellers who will be telling us a brand new story. You'll be finding out a little bit about them. So I'll just say their names right now in the order that they're telling. Vicky Udis, Michael D. McCarty, and Lauren Nemi. Excellent tellers telling a brand new story, so we never know where it's going to go. But to get to the feeling of giving ourselves permission to play, because that's what we need to do. In life, we don't get to play as much, even though I would argue that play is the real work that we do in life. We need to remind ourselves that we give ourselves permission to play. And with that, I know the pledge. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is to go ahead and go off mic. Initially, we just had tellers do this, but it was told that we should have people who are listening as well. They need to be involved in the play. All right. So all you have to do is repeat after me. Everybody can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. All right. Or a wave or whatever. Here we go. I give myself permission to play. Say it back.
I give myself permission to play.
And you can off mute if you like. I give myself permission to take risks.
I give myself permission to take risks.
I give myself permission to have fun.
I sure enough give myself permission to have fun.
Have fun, yes.
Because I know
No.
stories connect us.
Stories connect us. Yes.
And hey, I'm connected to story.
And I'm connected to story.
Let the stories begin.
Stories begin. Yes.
Let the stories begin.
Let the stories begin.
Let the stories begin.
Let the stories begin.
Mm-hmm.
Stories begin.
And so we want to think about that for a minute. What did we just do? We gave ourselves permission. And we need to keep in mind that these are stories that are brand new. We are going to encourage those who listen that you're actively in the process, in the sense of you can say, wow, this story came alive when I heard this. You can put it in the chat room. But at the same time, you want to say things that move a story forward, because it's birthing stage, to be honest with you. It's a brand new story. And our whole idea is that we need to talk more about the play we do together with stories. We need to play together, and that we need to help each other advance the story and the teller at the same time. So this is just going to be so much fun. It's always a new journey, but it starts out with permission and laughter and fun, and then we never know where the stories are going to go. So join with me. Everybody can then go back to mute if they haven't, so that we can give the attention to the storytellers. We've given our attention here. Let's talk about this California teller who tells stories both from the personal nature and always wrestles up a tale, whether it's a personal tale or monologues. It is well worth hearing. Please join with me in welcoming Judy Udis. And I'm going to spotlight her. You got to love technology. And here we go. Whenever you're ready, we're here for you.
Okay. So my kid's partner, they go by they, them. And my kid, also they, them. The two of them are in my kid's Prius. My kid is driving. The partner calls me on their cell phone and says, "Hey, how are you about meeting my parents?" "Sure," I say. "You don't sound sure." "No, yes, that sounds great." My kid pipes up, "Mom, just be yourself." I say, "But not too weird." No one laughs. The partner says, "Well, we're meeting my parents in an hour, so we'll pick you up in 30. "Okay." We hang up. Oh my God, 30 minutes to make a good impression. I mean, look, these are the parents of my kid's significant other. And this relationship seems to be a big deal, maybe the one. Now, I have known that the parents were in town from Boston. They're sightseeing in Los Angeles. And during the past week, the kids have been going out with them from time to time. And I have not been included. And this was totally fine because, sightseeing can be stressful, right? Fighting over where to go and when to go there and what to eat and when to eat it. In their spare time, the kids have been building a set at my house in the barn behind my house. And it's a set to go with a music video for one of my kids' songs. And the partner has just been incredible putting this thing together, designing it. And it looks like, well, I've never been in a brothel, but it looks like I would say a movie version of a brothel. It's got a bed and pink satin sheets and pink shag carpeting and pink wallpaper, a pink chandelier that the partner rigged up. It actually works. Oh my gosh, I need to get ready. Let's see what to wear. My kid said, "Be yourself." So since the start of the pandemic, I have basically just worn black sneakers, black jeans, a black t-shirt, black hoodie. I'll just wear what I have on. What to talk about, or more importantly, don't talk too much because I do tend to babble. I will ask the parents questions, let them do the talking. And I will not screw up the pronouns. They, them, they, them, they, them. I know this. I am supportive. I totally get it. The kids are both non-binary. The partner is no gender and my kid is all genders, but sometimes the wrong pronouns will just fly out of my mouth and I will see the disappointment on my kid's face and that lack of trust, that I have their back. And my kid will say, "Mom, my partner's parents never misgender. They care." Ding dong, well, time to go. So I grab my bag and I go out to the Prius. Well, we have all come as ourselves. I'm in black and my kid is wearing a auto mechanic shirt with the name Todd on the pocket over an orange sports bra and army pants and combat boots. And the partner is wearing pink overalls with pink flowers over a plaid tee and red sneakers. Here we go. Well, we're going to our favorite restaurant. We pull up and there's a car pulling up in front of us. Oh, that must be the parents' rent-a-car. Yes. There's this guy getting out of the driver's seat, wiry little guy, silver hair, and the very petite woman getting out of the passenger side. Her hair is dyed bright red. Now, these two individuals are dressed for, I would say, miniature golf. They have on polo shirts over plaid shorts and sporty little socks and sneakers. We've all come as ourselves. I look at the restaurant, closed. Maybe forever. Pandemic fail. Oh my gosh, I say to the parents, I am so sorry. My gosh, I should have called. Listen, did we really want to sit out on that hot patio anyway? Let's all go to my house and blast the AC. Here's my phone. And here's our second favorite restaurant. You guys just order. You go to the house. I'll go pick up the food. The mom looks relieved because we're out in the hot sun. We're already sweating bullets. So they all get into the rent-a-car to go to the house. And I get in the Prius and I head to the restaurant. I think, this will be better, won't it? I mean, a little more relaxed at the house. I think, oh my gosh, my house. I mean, the living room. Yeah, my great-grandmother's furniture upholstered in blood red velvet and my collection of gnomes and my skulls and my witchcraft paraphernalia. Well, too late now. I get the food. I head back to the house. Oh, everyone's in the family room. I don't think anyone went in the living room. So we all go into the dining room to start unpacking the food. And now my kid looks a little uncomfortable. Now, my dining room, as you can see, is like floor to ceiling pictures of my kid from infancy and then their dance concerts. And then on this wall, when my kid did all their, rock shows in clubs. And my kid says, "Mom, this room kind of looks like a shrine. Looks like I died." awkward pause. And then the mom pipes up, "Oh, honey, you are so loved." All right, so we're unpacking the food at the dining room table, and now the mom kind of takes charge. She is a marketing guru, and she decides she's going to interview me. Well, there's nothing I like talking about more than myself. So she asked about, my childhood and about being an actor and a storyteller. And then she says, now what's one of your favorite stories? And I say, well, I have one about swing dancing. And she says, "Oh, we took lessons. It did not go well." And the dad, I don't think he's spoken yet this whole time. He says, "I couldn't lead." Awkward pause. Oh my God. I sense this is an issue in the marriage. What can I say? All right. I say, "Hey, what's one of your favorite things that you saw when you were sightseeing?" And the mom says, "Laurel Canyon. We went there for the site of the Wonderland murders." No, that wasn't it. It wasn't the murders. Oh my God, what was it? Oh no, this terrible pause. And then the mom bursts out laughing and says, "Laurel Canyon and novels and song lyrics and the view. Oh, it's the view. Oh, fantastic. Oh, things are going okay. I really think this hasn't gone badly at all. And it's kind of wrapping up. And I think before they go, I'm going to invite them out to see that set." And I say, "Hey guys, let's all go out to the barn and see that set. Your kid has done an amazing job. I mean, when she rigged up that chandelier." Oh my God, I've misgendered. Oh no. I see the hurt on my kid's face. I see the partner looking at the floor. The two of them are going to have panic attacks. We're going to have to call an ambulance, and the parents will never speak to me again. And I will have ruined the most important relationship in my kid's life and destroyed their future. It's my kid who says, "Yeah, let's go see the set." So we go out back to the barn, and the kids get the lights on and the sound system, and my kid gets their bass, and they sit down on the brothel bed, and they start singing, "Do you want to see me cry on stage?" I'm teary. I am teary, and the parents are beaming, and we're looking at our kids, and this is all that's important. We love our kids, and we're happy they have found each other.
Wow. Oh, no.
Great.
Wow. You can take a breath. Vicki, thank you so much for sharing that. Before we start within the play, let me remind people that they can put in the chat room. Catherine Boomer calls it the hidden gems. You're like, wow, this became more real for me. Or have you considered? I've always said the three strongest words that you can use in coaching is imagine, have you considered, and something else. Oh, have you considered, imagine, and I wonder, because it allows a story to kind of advance. So as you're listening, feel free to offer suggestions, because that's what they are. She owns the story, so she gets to move with it. But it was such a trip. It was inside the mind of a parent that's so worried, and in an age of worrying about pronouns, but also in relationship. There's much to be said, but much to play. Vicki, are you ready to play? And I think you're still mute.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for bringing that story to us. It is so rich and so alive. And so here's a couple things. And again, we're just playing with ideas. We can use them. You can use them in the story. And if they don't work, they at least show some emotional or some impact of the story. I'd like to go to that one word that you said, don't be too weird. So I want to come to that conversation as a slow conversation of where they say, I want you to meet my partner's parents. But I want to hear inside your child's thinking of 3 times that you were weird, that they might be fearful for. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So you literally become your child and say, oh my gosh, I remember. Let's start that way. that work?
Okay. Oh my gosh. I remember when my mom came to back to school night in a blonde wig, and I guess some outfit she thought was cool and hip and fun. I also remember my kid at my bat mitzvah. She wore way too much makeup. And when we were supposed to pose for really serious pictures, she made this really goofy, horrifying face. And also, when she was supposed to make a speech about me, she just started crying uncontrollably, and they just had to move on. Also, I will say it's also about the times my mom just didn't show up. It was parents weekend at NYU, and my mom didn't come at all, and just called and said that she thought it was just not something that was important to me, and it was so important. My mom just totally doesn't get the really important things in life.
So excellent. And let me hear the partner of your kid responding to that.
You know, what I do like about your mom is, she's kind of cool. Like, she's not that judgmental. She gives you money without all those strings. She's taken care of your pet when you were out of town. I kind of appreciate that. I mean, my parents are really trying to rule my life and trying to get me back into marketing.
You said you were dressed complete. Well, I love it. I love the dialogue. You said you were dressed completely in black. So what I'd like to do is work within the senses where your kid, the partner, is just looking and visually saying what they see as soon as they see you, wherever you are when this conversation happens. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean you can't talk about
Who am
anything.
I? Oh, I'm the partner. I'm the kid.
You can choose either or.
Oh.
Looking upon you, what you're wearing, and what's around you.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. My mom is still a good looking woman. I mean, there are days when I think she looks sporty. But when she puts this on, she looks like, the Catwoman who lives at the end of the block, who's out of their mind. And the stuff is baggy. It's not form fitting. My God, I don't know where I got my fashion sense, not from her.
Good. So they come in for this conversation to invite you to hear the parents. I want to hear what's coming, what's in your head. And I want you to hold a journal and write down like a mini conversation that you're going to have before you even go. You're planning this.
Oh, that I will say when they come.
Yes. You've been asked, they've agreed, and you're so worried that you're going to use journaling, and you're just going to journal out loud.
Okay. Yes. I feel that, they want to get to know me, and of the unique aspects of me. And some things that people really enjoy, like the time I was in that soft porn movie. I mean, I know it's a little up, but it's so funny. And my God, all they gave us to eat was cheese. And we were in this children's theater camp. And I did not take off my clothes. Wait, is that just too much? Wait, it's too much. It's too much, isn't it? Okay. How about the time I did a Pop-Tart commercial in drag, I look like a man in drag. It was so incredible.
You transitioned to pronoun paranoia.
Okay. I know it's they, them. I have practiced, and I often do get it right. I really do, because I understand. I really get it from deep down. The they for my kid is everything, right? It's every time they wear a mustache, every time they wear a push-up bra, every time they're in drag, it's everything. My kid is all things, and the partner is totally not, and I don't really get it, but you know what? It's okay. I accept it. I don't get it the way I get my own child, but I mean, I think that's kind of typical, but I know that it's different. It's they don't feel right in their own skin. And I know that I need to be there for both of them.
We're going to hold still a moment. When they get out of the car, the silver hair, I just want you, as long as my hand is up, describe what you see before they even come to you. All right. So we see the silver hair, we see the walking out, you walk around, we hear nervous, whatever comes, but you can't leave that detail until I lift the hand.
Oh my God. They look like something out of what GQ, or maybe my oh my God, you know what they look like? Out of my alumni magazine from my college. Totally preppy. These people are probably ultra conservative. And here I am in black. Oh my God, they're thinking like, oh, what is she, like some aging punk rocker? And does she dye her hair black? My God, the woman has absolutely no taste. I know that's what they're thinking. I see it, like, especially in his eyes. I can absolutely tell. He's thinking, I am really strange. And I was going to be so normal.
You're at the moment where you're meeting them at the point, and we're going to look at Vicki, I probably don't have to tell you, but you talk at a very fast rate and it works for the story, but there are some times we want to look at slowing it down. And so I do the thing called meaningful pause. So not just a pause, but when I go like this and go like this, the pause has a deliberate intention. I will show you. Let's say I'm using Little Red Riding Hood, and you do that to me. There's this little girl. Her name's Red. She wears this hood. It's absolutely insane, but she loves it because her mother made it, and it was passed down from her grandmother's because she had one as well. Do you see what I'm doing? Meaningful
It's cool.
Significant intention. So I want you to be involved in the conversation with the parents. But I'm going to do significant pause every now and then. You'll get at least 45 seconds before the first significant pause. Don't worry about it. 3, 2, when you're ready.
You know, I think probably one of the most fun storytelling things I had was I went all the way to Hong Kong. Oh my gosh. And I no one spoke English, and I was also super tall. Like, I really stood out. But it was fascinating, and I would never have gone otherwise. I mean, I'm going down the street into those little alleyways, and all the, hanging up dead things that are there to purchase to eat. And as a vegetarian, I was kind of thinking, whoa, I'm on a foreign planet. And then I noticed that everyone was going somewhere else. The street around me was deserted. They were all going up a mountain to get their luck.
I was hoping to get another pause in, but it's okay. No worries. And so I want you to take the vantage point of the other mother, if I can say it that way, the other mother, and what she saw while you were talking, or just pick a point. And I'm still going to do significant pause, but from the other mother. 3, 2, when you're ready.
This woman is not what I expected. First of all, she can't shut up. I mean, my God, could the woman, I'm afraid she's going to hyperventilate. This is, well, it's kind of fascinating, but a little frightening, thinking this woman's kid could turn into the woman in front of me. Can you imagine? What will it be like when the kids get married? She'll be insane, right? She'll be out of her mind. She'll be of no help whatever. So of course I'll have to step in and do it all, which is kind of the story of my life.
And this is going to be a crazy exercise, but I'm noted for that. No worries. I want you to have a dialogue in half sentences, as though a lot of our sentences we never complete. So you'll only get to say, but then someone else will say something in half sentences. I've never done this. It'll be interesting. 3. So you go, I can't believe and then someone else interrupts with a half sentence. That makes sense?
Sort of.
There's a reason for my madness.
Okay.
3, 2, go.
I think that's an awfully nice. Have you thought about this yet? Do you think I always am deep in thought about your well-being, Mom. Do you really think yes, it's what I think about with what are you going to say? Fiber of your being. Yes, it is a very fiber. That is all I think. You don't think about, I do think about, no, you don't. It's all about no, it's about you, honey. You've never thought that way. You're never going to be like Daddy.
I love it. I love it. And it's often what's not said is what we find what is said.
Yeah.
Before we start talking about the process, I got one more thing. I want you to, first of all, you're great at playing. I love it. A second, I want you to incorporate that dialogue and conversation that we had in anything that we have, whether it's a pause, a half sentence, and just retell the first 2 minutes of the story using some of that dialogue and conversation. Anything you want. There's no right or wrong. There's only redo. That make sense?
Okay, this is really hard.
It's okay. Breathe in.
We'll try.
3, 2, I'm going to fade away and you go.
My kid's partner, they, them. And my kid, also, of course, they, them. The two of them are in my kid's Prius and my kid is driving. My kid's partner calls me on their phone. Hey, how are you about meeting your parents? How did you know? Well, I knew they were in town. Yeah, so we'll pick you up in 30. Sure. In what world is an unsuspecting mother supposed to be ready to meet these important people in 30 minutes? Like, how is that a thing? And I sense, this could be it, right? This relationship could be the one. Now, I knew they were in town. Was I hurt that I wasn't invited? No, absolutely not. It was totally, it wasn't really that fine, but I was a little hurt, but I thought, well, it's actually better, isn't it? Because sightseeing is stressful, God damn it, right? All the fighting about where to go, when to go there, what to eat, and when to eat it. This past week, the kids have been building a set in the barn in the back of my house, and it's a set to go with my kids' music video, and the partner's amazing. I mean, well, how can I even start to even explain how brilliant my kids' partner is? That was fun.
Oh, great. So I will tell you my intention, and you tell me what you learned, if anything, from our practice together. My intention was to slow you down a little bit, to look at singular moments, to really take moment to see what was more significant than others, to play with unbroken dialogue so that you could see what another person might respond. And in addition to kind of layering some perspective to see where we are. And there were other intentions, but what did you get, if anything, from our work together?
As you might know, Kevin, I'm someone that usually writes everything down. It's all typed up. I memorize it. I come from an acting background. And I think what I learned from this is it can be really fun to just kind of to go away from that and to not worry that it won't be perfectly what I have typed there. It might be better. It might be better because especially with a new piece, maybe not so much as something I've done many, many, many times, but especially for something new, I can get very, very stuck on what I typed and not, at the early stage, just trying to get it right, trying to make sure I hit all the high points and all that. Instead of what I had to do here is because I couldn't do that. So what I had to do is think more about my inner intention, my intention. What am I really trying to tell you? I'm really just trying to tell you, I want to make a good impression. I love my kid and I want to be there for them.
I couldn't have said it better. Doug Lippman says you look for the MIT, the most important thing that controls the story. And, in the acting world, rehearsal for me is just play until you get to the world. You got to play in the world in order to write it down. You have to work the world until you can get to the print. And it shouldn't be an isolating thing. And Vicki, let me tell you, you take suggestions and coaching. Well, coaching is what I call mediation. You take mediation very, very well. And I would really invite you to explore every way to build your story, because you're only going to lift it in layers and levels by responding, and I can't wait to work with you again.
Let me just say, I was dreading this and I was absolutely terrified. But it ended up being really fun, and I think that's a credit to you.
Oh, thank you, Vicki. I so appreciate it. And I agree with Nick, who said, amazing job. Nick Baskerville said, you were able to take feedback you just got in and put it in, and the play worked really well. And please invite me to the next telling of this story. And we'll have you back in at the end just to say a little bit, but we're going to go to the next teller. But again, thank you for your play.
Thanks.
And I want to remind people to go ahead and give comments, and the more detailed you are, the more that she can re-see, revision, rehear her story. So if you say that moment when there was a brothel, I mean, it came alive, and this is what I saw. The cool thing about working with a partner is they can tell you what they had in their mind when you were telling the story. That's what makes storytelling extremely unique, so connected, so it works really, really well. So the stories continue. Let me move on to our next teller. And our next teller is a modern day griot that also tells with a specific allegiance to the past cultural traditions. I want to share with you that he is a feature in a documentary. And if you look, and if you look at this Vimeo link, he has literally given us the password to watch the complete movie. And it is exceptional. The man's life mirrors the stories he tells. They're eclectic, far in range, and well worth the commanding impression that he moves. A good friend of mine, a colleague with amazing storytellers, yeah, he's got a company of them, and stories to tell. I want to bring on Michael D. McCarty. And here he comes, and I'm going to fade out here in 1 minute. Welcome, Michael.
Greetings and salutations, and how to heaven are you?
When you're ready to roll.
Kevin, am I ready to rock and to roll?
You rock.
All right. I'm calling the story I'm going to tell you Celestine Moments. Comes from a book, concepts in a book called The Celestine Prophecy I read back in 1994. Here we go. In 2017, or thereabouts, I was contacted by my friend Ariel Nobile. She was a film student at NYU, and she wanted to do a series of documentaries because this was a response to the Trump madness that was going on and is still going on. And so she decided to make me the subject of this documentary, Belonging in the USA, the story of Michael D. McCarty. Now, I have been videotaped lots and lots and lots of times, you understand. But this was something that was quite amazing. One of the things, I would talk about several things that she did. One, she had a woman go through every one of my photos and catalog them. She had these two guys come and follow me around one day with a, what do you call a little thing that flies around kind of camera? I'm having a senior moment.
Drone?
Yes, a drone camera. Thank you very much. I need all the help I can get. Follow me around with a drone camera. And she interviewed a bunch of my friends. She interviewed my wife. She interviewed my daughter. She was in Chicago interviewing friends there. She was out here in LA visiting friends and storytellers, Barbara Clark, Baba the Storyteller, what have you. And she put together this amazing documentary. One of the most amazing things was an interview she did with my wife, Valerie. She asked Valerie, what would a movie of Michael's life be like? And Valerie could talk. And she told her this story, outline of my life. Ariel sent that interview to an animator who turned what Valerie had said into a separate, distinct animated film. And throughout the documentary, you see portions of that here and there. It was absolutely amazing. And if I had any humility whatsoever, I would have been humbled by this. But as Kevin and all my friends here can tell you, I ain't got none. I'm like, took them long enough. Now, I told you all that to tell you this. Ariel, I have known all of her life. Her parents, Jeff and Michelle, are two of my best friends. So I've known Ariel since she was born, and I saw her for about the first 3 years of her life. And then I left Chicago. The next time I saw her, she was about to graduate from high school. I'd gone over to see Jeff and Michelle. They went to bed, and it was me, Ariel, and one of her classmates, and I'm telling them stories. This was before I'd become a professional storyteller, but storytelling is all I've ever known. So at some point, Ariel says to me, Michael D., which is how I'm known in Chicago, I really don't remember you. I said, of course, you were just a baby. And I would go by there. Some of you will remember this game, Simon, with the lights, and you had to repeat it, boop, boop, boop. They never had the game, but I would go and press Ariel's belly, boop, 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 until she was sick of me. So I tell her this story. Her eyes get big as saucers. She remembers me. She remembers the apartment. She can describe the pictures on the wall. All of these memories come flashing back because of boop, boop, boop. And now she has a daughter. And when her daughter was born, I asked her, do you boop, boop, boop? And she says, yes, I do. And it was an amazing experience with the documentary. And it was an amazing experience hearing this story, realizing that something I had done when she was an infant was locked in her mind. And when it came back, all these memories were released. I love my life, and that's my story, and that's the end of that. Woohoo!
Hey, Michael. All right. I love it. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I just did something with my computer. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay, there I can see you again. All right. I don't know what I did. I won't do it no more.
Well, first thing, and this is out of context, but in context the whole time, while you're telling Jackie's behind you, and that's just
oh yes. Yep.
And for those who don't know Jackie Torrance or didn't know, well worth listening to. Look her up.
Oh yes.
And Michael, you honor the work. And the documentary, it's great to hear the story behind it. And really, yes, you're not humble, but I also know you was humble in some times. So maybe we'll look at the humbleness.
Don't blow my cover.
Michael, are you ready to play?
Yes, indeedy.
Excellent. Before we do, I want to invite people to really speak to what any resonance that the story that Michael told made you think of, or a high detail where it became real, or have you considered, or are you wondering? So what I'm looking at, and this, I think we're just going to do, well, first of all, Ariel, right?
Yes.
Let's hear that first phone call. Let's hear you answer the phone. I literally want, pick up your cell phone and be both people. And I want to hear when you realize that it's not just videoing you telling at a library. 3, 2, and no right or wrong, just redo. Go.
Oh, what? So you're gonna come out here and interview my daughter too and some friends? What? Oh man, wait a minute. Somebody's gonna catalog my photos? And you got guys gonna follow me? They're gonna follow how long? All day? What? What is oh,
Sweet.
wow.
Tell your wife this is happening. Tell Valerie.
So baby, Ariel is gonna do a documentary on me. Yeah, yeah. And she's gonna interview you. Yeah. I know it's gonna be great because that's how you roll. Oh baby, you tell that story.
Michael, you're at your 30th year anniversary or at your high school, and they've heard rumors of this film, and everybody has a peek of it, just a piece of it, a snapshot. And it all starts with, did you hear about Michael? And I want you to play as many characters as you can and add whatever you can from, and from what you say, I should understand that film better through the detail. And when you're ready, 3, 2, go.
Yeah, Peter, it was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, my life has been interesting. In fact, I think my life was interesting so I could do what I do. It's part of it. Oh man, thanks, man. Oh, hey, Dara, how you? Yeah, you liked it? Oh man, yeah, I'm glad you did. Yeah, you know, still loud and silly as I was in elementary school. Yep. Yeah, still causing trouble, mischief and mayhem. I'm so glad you liked it. Oh, but I'm glad to know that my life had some meaning, and in some way, shape, or form, you got something from it, man. Thanks for always
Michael, 10 sentence backwards is what I call this. Tell the story, 10 sentences. Each sentence must have rich detail so that I can see it as though I'm seeing it as you say it. You start backwards from the end to the beginning. Only 10 sentences allowed. Go.
Wow. Sentence one. What? Oh man, I didn't know you did all that.
I want that detail, not all that. I want the detail. Move me inside that picture.
Okay, I'll take take that into 3. Yeah, when the FBI came down on me, my back was against the wall. I had to figure out what to do, and that was the only thing I could think of. Join the army. Can't beat them, join them kind of thing. Play the game. 4. Yeah, the drug world, my drug world was indeed a trip. And that freebase time was as close as I've come to being dead and dying. And I'm amazed that I got through that. I got to go around the world. I got to go to a dozen countries. I got to meet this spiritual teacher that changed the course of my life. 6. And my daughter has been a very, very amazing part of my life. Not only in sharing my life with her so she understands the wild and craziness of her dad, but watching her and seeing how much she is like me. How many is that? Is that 7?
I think you're at 8.
Okay. Wow. Those little cards that you gave out, it seems like every time somebody takes a card, it's the perfect card. I've watched you do this. And every time you give those little pop open cards, somebody says, that's just what I needed to hear. And last, your mama would have been proud. She would have been proud.
Listeners, if any of those sentences made you think about additional questions that you would ask Michael, write them down, because those are important. Because telling the story of the film is different than when you tell the story of your life. And so what I want you to do is flash timeline. I want you to say, if the story started in the 60s, and say in the 60s, and any change in your thinking happened. 70s, work my way up till I get to 2020. Not every year, but just in tens. Go.
Okay. So 60s, civil rights, Black Power movement, my getting woke, as the term is used nowadays, becoming conscious, becoming aware, getting kicked out of high school. The 60s, the 70s.
If you can think of a pivotal moment, I want that detail.
Well, let me back up.
Okay.
December 4th, 1969. FBI and Chicago police would raid the apartment of Fred Hampton. The raid happens about 4 a.m. Mark Clark and Fred Hampton are shot dead, and several of my comrades were wounded. I left that apartment at 2 a.m. Woke up from a dead sleep, left that apartment, took the bus home. By the time I got home and laid down, the phone rang and I was notified. And that was a massive shock to the system. The 70s, went to the Army in order to deal with the FBI, as I mentioned, and that became a stepping stone. That was where I had my introduction to meditation, Eastern philosophy, acupuncture, and I would eventually become an acupuncturist later in the 70s. And then became involved with NADA, the National Acupuncture Detox Association at Lincoln Hospital in New York, 60s, 70s, going into the 80s. Met Dr. Michael Smith, was treating all kinds of people for heroin, crack, alcohol, tobacco. Then 1982, again, that trip around the world, coming back from that trip, and all of a sudden knowing that my life was going to be different, not knowing what it was. And then later in the 80s, taking a trip to India, not knowing that I was leaving Chicago, ending up out here in LA. And then in the 90s, meeting Leslie Perry, Kathleen Zundell, entering into the world of storytelling, Joe Ben Izzy, and finding this whole other world, which was a part of my mindset anywho. And then starting the Griot workshop, getting involved with schools and libraries. And then in the 2000s, we had the LA Storytelling Festival, which Leslie and a group of us all put together. And then in 2014, getting involved in my work in the prisons. And that just opened up a whole world for me. Finding a program of storytelling that I could teach in the prisons to help these guys learn to find, develop, and tell their stories. And oh, let me just back up, because in 1999, I did a storytelling gig at Neutrogena, hired by my now wife, Valerie, and people said, "What kind of story did he tell you?" It was a good one. Next month, we celebrate our 23rd wedding anniversary, and that be that.
So I'm reading about the importance of the 3 whys. So I just want you to answer, and if you can answer it not, and if you can answer it in a story without it was good or bad or whatever, why, Michael, do you work in prisons? You got to answer it with a story, a short one, but a good one.
There's a guy, there have been so many, but there was a guy in my class last year who, I do this workshop called something, I can't remember the name, Brain Lock, but it helps them to get in touch with their stories. And he found the story that was the basis for his life in crime. He found that story, and I can still see his face when that realization came to be.
You're taking the same situation, you're answering this question. No, Michael, why do you really tell in the prisons?
I was made to do so. All the things that have happened in my life, all my experiences, my political, my drug world, my wild and craziness, all of these things have prepared me for my work in the prisons. I tell the guys on day one, the only difference between me and you, I was lucky and I had a good lawyer.
One more, same situation. Why do you really tell in prisons?
One day, I was walking down the hall to my classroom at one of the prisons. And this officer, corrections officer, comes up to me, says, "Excuse me, but is it true that you're the guy in the Skittles commercial milking the giraffe?" And before I could answer, this black guy is walking down the hall towards me. He said, "Yeah, man, he's the Skittles guy." And the officer and the inmate, high five.
Michael, you're at the Texas School Board of Education. They're discussing your film and whether they want to take it out of the library. You only have 45 seconds to graphically detail a scene in the movie that will make them reconsider it. But I want you to concentrate on a sense, whether it's smell, shouldn't be sight, it could be taste, makes it harder, but I want you to give that 45 seconds, but don't forget the sense you chose, whatever it is.
And this is from my doc.
Yes, a moment inside that film.
I am who I am because of my mother. My mother taught me that you have an obligation as a human being. If you see something wrong, either do something about it or tell somebody who can. And I do whatever I can to right wrongs whenever I see them.
And the Board of Education approves the film staying, and they'll be showing it to all freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and even people who don't agree. So look at it again. Michael, breathe in. For me, the documentary mirrors your world, but the real documentary is you. What my intentions were, and both to work and play, is to help you see behind, in front, and around the film, also to see the importance through other people and be able to chronicle how these events promoted change. I recently worked on a lot of research that the only stories that have resonance are the ones that address change and resistance to change. And your film is about that, but I wanted to highlight the change within you, and you also gave us the change within others. Can you tell me what you got from this experience, if anything?
Well, yeah, always, man. Always. When we just talk, when we hang out, it's the beauty of storytellers. When we hang with each other, we don't have that competition kind of mindset. It's what is it that Doug Littman does? Appreciations, and what was the other one?
I only know appreciations.
Well, and that's good, because that's the one I like.
He can get more critical. Well, appreciations can be critical too. He can be more discerning as you work with him.
Yeah, and these insights that you get, the perspectives that you get, because I'm telling my story from my perspective. When I tell you a story, that goes in and you have your own vision, images of the story. And then certain things will mean something to you that has nothing to do with what it means to me. And to hear those reflections, to hear those insights, to hear those sharings, that gives me direction and guidance and makes me feel great.
One more question. What did you find specifically that might be new from the play?
Well, the idea, but it's not new, but it's that idea of perspectives. All right, being aware of perspectives. It's like when I was in India recently and I'm telling certain stories and doing certain things, that you have to be aware of other people's frame of reference. And that has to be part of your telling. Even if you're telling a story you told 1,000 times, your audience has a different mind frame, and you got to be aware of that.
For me, a pivotal moment is when you said that my daughter mirrors my world. I think there's another documentary there. I think there's a lot of questions that can be doing follow-up. There's more of that story that I want to hear from your daughter through you or through your daughter. Michael, thank you so much for bringing not just the documentary, but bringing you and your new story of this awareness to us. We'll have you back on, and you and I could talk forever till the moon comes up twice. But right now, we're going to move on to the next teller. Thank you so much for you, my friend.
Pleasure. And yay, kick butt, Lauren.
And Michael has teased our next teller. He's coming up. He is here. He just got a published book of poetry. I don't think it's his first book of poetry. I know it's not his first book. He is a storyteller not afraid to take risks, both in leadership and in telling. He is on the forefront of, for me at least, in bringing friends to the story world. A good friend and colleague, someone that I always enjoy hearing, and we're hearing today with a brand new story, the talented Lauren Nemi.
A July afternoon. I'm on the farm that I used to live on. Off to my left, the Mississippi River Valley. And in this late afternoon, the shadow has begun to cross the water on its way up to the walls into Wisconsin. Behind me, the barn with the cows on one side of the little farm road and corn on the other. To my right, the driveway leading to the mailbox, and across the top of the ridge, the road that the milk truck and the school bus take. In front of me, well, there was a time when I would have said in front of me was the house, but in point of fact, at this very moment, in front of me is the ruins of the house. At this very moment, well, some might say it's deja vu, but really that's wrong. It's not the sense of something that you've already seen reappearing, of your knowing what comes next. In fact, this is a slightly different experience. For as I'm standing there in front of the ruins, in front of the depression, which is the basement walls and the bottom of the cracked floor with the tree growing out of it and the few beams that survived leaning against those walls, I saw the world flicker. I felt a rush of wind. I saw literally the house rebuild itself, rising from that debris. And to its credit, to the credit of the universe, it did not arise, as they say in the Gospels, the body coming up better than it ever was before, but in fact, the body coming up exactly as it was when I lived there, which was decrepit and broken down. The house, which when we lived there had no insulation, which had electricity in one room, a wood burning stove, pump water, a trail to the outhouse. That house was there in front of me. It is the subject of so many stories. In the many stories, I start off by saying, I went back to the land and failed to take root. And that was true. In some stories, I talk about how hard it was in the winter, how even in the summer, it was often problematic to reach for the light cord in the kitchen and grab the fly strip instead. But to see that house there in that moment, and to think back how 20 years had elapsed from the last time I had stood at this very spot looking at that house, I recognized how important it was. It was then, and even now, how it became, and for many ways, the place where I found myself. Now, it'd be easy to dismiss this as simply my experience, as a bit of imagination, as a little kerfluffle of the emotions, nostalgia. But standing next to me was Gregory. And standing next to me on the other side was Michael. Gregory had lived in that house when I lived there. Michael had lived in that house when I lived there. The three of us were standing there looking at the ruins of the house. And yet, when I turned to look at them and they to me, we all said the same thing. Did you feel that? Did you see that? And each of them confessed that they saw the house rise from the ruins to be what it was when we lived there. And at the same time, the moment we shut our eyes or turned our back, that house disappeared and the ruins remained. I do not think it is a deja vu when it is a shared vision, when it is a shared experience. I think it is a kind of time travel and a kind of blessing and a kind of affirmation. An affirmation not just of place, but of people. For while we lived there, we all worked together. And when we left, each of us to go our own ways, we were made better for having had the experience. And so now here in this moment, having come to this spot 20 years after the fact, for no discernible reason other than to see each other again, we were gifted with this. And that gift deserves to be celebrated.
Wow. I have to tell you, Lauren, and then well, first of all, let me invite everyone. Well, first of all, thank you for the story.
Okay.
Second, let me invite people on the richness of the detail that you saw, or made you think of something, or have you wondered about this or imagined? And I'll start there. I only recently, 2 weeks ago, went to my grandfather's house in West Virginia that I've never seen. He was hunchback, Italian, and blind. And it was a dilapidated two-story home in Raccoon Holler, believe it or not. And as you kept telling the story, I was like, wow, I was there. So, you know, they say the greatest stories will bring you to another story. So I want to thank you for bringing me to that story.
Oh, good. Raccoon, I like that.
And
it's not on the top, it's somewhere down below.
And we were able to locate the outhouse that still remained, but one floated away in the 60s, and I found out my dad helped build that.
Oh man.
So but there's richness in the story that you have. Are you ready to play?
Sure.
Okay. So I want Gregory, Michael, and you to be in a separate room and just Gregory start, say what's happening there without any evaluation, just say what's happening, go to Michael, and then go to you. And if it comes together, that's fine.
Do you any particular time frame for this?
No. Well, 20 years ago. It was in the
past. Okay, all right.
Currently.
In the house. No. We'll do, okay. I'm in the kitchen. Gregory is, okay, all right, here we go.
No, stay with you in the kitchen. Don't, Gregory and Michael have their own story.
Wait, it just came to me, so here it is.
Got it.
I'm in the kitchen. I'm working on supper. Tonight's supper is soup. You know, it's that time of the month when our food stamps have begun to run out and we're down to the shreds. The stove needs wood. The soup needs tending. But I look out the window and I see Gregory is coming back from the barn. And in his hand, he has 3 eggs, which is kind of interesting because they're not our chickens. The barn and all its contents belong to Marvin Johnsgard, who lives across the way. But Gregory has had a conversation with Marvin, and as they've had the conversation, Marvin keeps handing him chicken eggs. And as he comes into the kitchen, he says, well, we can eat them now, or we can eat them tomorrow. And I say, go ask Michael what he's up to. Gregory opens the door to the side porch and looks out, and Michael is there in the garden. Michael is hoeing the onions. He lifts up one and he says, we can eat it now, or we can eat it tomorrow. And Gregory says, well, save it for tomorrow. We're having eggs.
You're all scheduled to arrive at this place, but you arrive at different times.
Yep.
And so you enter the kitchen and you come back to it, but you also describe what's physically there. It might be in ruins and you can't go in the kitchen, but you either from a window or from inside walking in, whether there's glass or whatever. Just but slightly remember that situation, juxtaposing it. Okay.
Yep. Everything about the house centers on the kitchen. It centers on the kitchen because it is the only room with electricity, with the one socket and the one light hanging from the middle of the room. Beneath the light, the table, 4 square with 4 chairs. Across from the table, on the same side as the door that goes out to the barn, the stove. On the side, at a right angle to the stove, the sink and the pump handle for the water. On the far side, opposite the stove, on the back side of the table, the door to the side porch, and beyond it, the garden. Now, you can go out either door and take a path down to the outhouse. The outhouse faces the Mississippi River Valley, so that when you sit there, you can open the door and look at the great river. Look at the river of time, the ditch of time, always swimming away. And then finally, of course, there's the other wall with the 2 doors, one leading to what should be the living room, which is actually a bedroom, and one leading to the bedroom, which is actually a bedroom. This little square, 15 by 15, 20 by 20, it's hard to tell exactly, is the world for all intents and purposes. Here the world is created. Here the world is recounted.
I heard you say, I saw the world flicker. So instead of reaching for the fly strip from the very first time that you're in this house, and of course they say, and you know this very well, that the environment is its own character in the story. I want you to flip a light switch, and every time you flick that light switch, you see the changes in the place that you are within short sentences. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep. I reach out and I pull down the cord. The light goes off. It is late August. I am just moved in. I am thinking to myself, why the hell did Gregory choose this place? How could it make sense? I turn on the light. It is early morning. It is winter. It is so damn cold that, all there is to do is start the fire, take those embers that are there at the bottom and bring the breath of life to them, bring kindling, bring everything that produces heat, because until that happens, there will be no coffee. And until there is coffee, there will be no life. I flick the switch, and it is late in the afternoon. It is springtime. Outside are the 3 trucks, only 2 of which are working, but we never can tell which 2 at any one time. And the Volkswagen, it is muddy as hell. It is a sea of mud from there to the barn. It is a sea of mud down the driveway. It is a sea of mud across the top of the bridge. We won't be going into Winona today, not because we have to, but because, frankly, we'd just rather not deal with the mud. Reach up and turn off the light. Let's just sit here at the table for a while. Let's just sip a coffee. Let's talk.
This is a new technique that I've just learned about. I have some variations of it. I want you to pick an object in the home. It could be the stove, could be the light switch, could be the fly strap, or whatever. And we're going to do a thing called color in advance. Have you done that before?
I have done.
So you're going to describe what's going on just in the story, actually, but make this object central to what you're describing in the story. If you want to stay to the story, that's fine. If you want to go away from the story, if I say the words color, whatever you're talking about, you have to intimately detail and describe. If I say the word advance, you're advancing time in the story. You're going to pick somewhere else to go. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, take a moment. I'll let you tell at least 30 seconds before I say color or advance. 3, 2, when you're ready.
The wood is piled next to the stove. The wood is actually in 2 sections. There is that which is the cord wood, which we've chopped, which we've split, which we've aged, and which will be the basis of heat. And then there is that box with the scraps, with the bits of 2x4s, with the everything that is kind of random but quick burning, that which light to light the wood. So the wood itself it has the color of earth. It is not simply brown, but there is scattered in it bits of green from lichen or proto-lichen, bits of moss and proto-moss. What was that?
Advance.
Oh, advance. Cleaning out the stove. Of course, we have to deal with the ashes, shovel them out and put the embers back in. It's an interesting process of trying to balance the shovel, the little shovel, to get out what needs to go and at the same time leave what needs to stay in place.
Color.
The ashes are as gray as they can be, bordering on white. There is a delicacy to them that is makes you want to touch them. And the moment you do touch them, they become nothing. They become the dust. From dust you came, and from dust you shall return.
Advance.
Gregory is sitting at the table. He is looking at the stove and he says, you know, we really do need another cup of coffee. I go, why? He says, well, because I'm just making the final touches here. And I look and see that he has a diorama that he's been working on for months.
I'm going to transition you to the story. Let me ask you this question, and you just answer it off the top of your head. This can change. The answer can change. What is broken in the story?
What is broken?
Not in the telling. What is broken? Just want your reaction.
Physically?
In the story itself, what is broken?
Physically, the house is broken.
Okay.
Physically, interestingly enough, the land is broken.
Anything non-physical broken in the story?
What's non-physical broken in the story?
Mm-hmm.
Memory is broken.
Good. I want you to use memory as a metaphor, which you already did, but differently this time. And I'm going to use color in advance, but you don't have to stick with the wood or the, you can just tell the story. Just listen for color in advance and use the metaphor as much as you can, but not overuse, and you don't do that anyway. 3, when you're ready.
Okay. It is interesting how memory works. I said in a poem one time that memories held too dear will consume you. And so it is that I recognize that all of the stories I tell, all the memories I have that are intertwined, have reached that stage where the memory is more real than the fact. It is that moment where what should have been is as important as what was. And what was and can be denied will be denied because, frankly, it is of no use.
You're at the house.
This house is an ordinary house. It was built in the 20s or before. It was utilitarian in every sense. And yet,
Advance.
well, how many families lived here? Marvin Johnsgard across the way, he never lived on this side of the road.
Color.
His interest was in the fields. His interest was in the idea of that 40 acres that sloped down on the right to where the oaks were, to where the willows were, to where
Advance.
I can hear the tractor as he puts across the road. Marvin is the kind of guy who is faithful to his cows and to the milking of the cows. At his daughter's wedding, he stayed too long and he got too drunk and he missed a milking and he never forgave himself.
Pick one scene that's unresolved. That doesn't mean it's not good. It just means it's unresolved. Jerome Bruner says trouble is the engine of narrative. So if I go like this, let's see if I get that right. Go like this. I want you to keep the trouble, whatever it is, instigate the trouble until I move it away. All right. You'll tell for 30 to 40 seconds before I find something, and we're deliberately instigating for that reason. Make sense?
Right.
When you're ready.
Okay. When I got the letter, it was pretty straightforward. It said simply that your appeal is denied. And I held it up. In the process of holding it up, I said, well, Gregory, it looks as though we are about to have a change of status. And he laughed and said, what, are you quitting? I said, no, I'm still here. I'm still working with you. I'm still living here. But I'm about to lose the title, brother. And Gregory laughed and said, well, I have the title brother, but that doesn't mean much for me. What could it possibly mean? What is the institutional perspective? What are they afraid of? What is it that they don't like? And I laughed and I said, you know as well as I, we took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and we took the vow of poverty seriously.
Color.
Gregory is he's sitting in the chair and he strokes his beard. He looks like Santa Claus. And in fact, in the winter at the home mall, he will play Santa Claus. He's got the round belly. He's got the white beard. He's got the rosy cheeks. He's got the twinkling blue eyes. And most of all, he's got the laugh that says, right?
Advance.
He's wearing his bib overalls and a t-shirt. In a few years, after he's left this farm, he will also leave the brothers. And in that moment when he does, he will leave the brothers in the most dramatic way possible. At his 25th anniversary, he will stand upon the pulpit and he will say, it's been good, but I'm done. And he will take off his robe and walk out of the chapel naked, to the shock of some and to the joy of others, walk across the quad to where he has the portable planetarium set up, put on his bib overalls, turn on Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon, and say to people, come, let us dance.
All three of you walk just a little bit outside the perimeter of the ruins of the home. There are scraps of what you would call memory, and might just be old, folded up paper. Each one of you takes a moment, takes a breath, picks it up, and brings it back to something. And it can be something harsh, it can be something hard, it could be something pleasant, it can be something only Gregory knows, but you tell what those three things are. This will
Okay.
probably be the last exercise.
Okay. After we looked at the ruins, we made a circuit, a long spiral moving out further and further into the yard and across the space towards the barn, towards where the cars were parked. Gregory stopped first, stopped at the stump where he had set up the telescope and where he had photographed the stars. And he reached down and he found a dime. When it had fallen out of his pocket or out of someone else's was unknown, but the dime was an older model. He could see on it Liberty. Michael laughed. He went over to where the axe had been, to the stump and to the cutting. He had chopped wood at this space over and over and over again. And he reached down to see if there was anything there. Scraps of wood, but scraps of wood were enough. He could tell from the feel that which was oak, that which was birch, that which was damn popular, which burns fast, but chops sloppy. And I went over towards the edge of the trail down to the outhouse where the cow used to sit in front of the door. And I picked up the grass. Living in the city, you don't find this kind of grass anymore. I could smell the grass. Timothy, slightly yellowed on top because it's already becoming fall. And to the touch, slick. And when you rub it, the smell enters your nostrils and you say, this is summer.
That's a keeper right there. Lauren,
Yeah.
my intentions were, although it comes back as ruins, you talked about poverty, and people don't see poverty if they haven't been in poverty. And I wanted to see the picture. I wanted to see where the tensions are. And what the beautiful word that you said is, I saw the world flicker, and just taking that and a light switch, I wanted to see those microcosms of memory, and really see that there are ruins there, but there's so much more. And so we just played with some ideas and that type of thing. Those were my intentions. Color in advance is new to me, but I like what you did with it. Vicky said, I found myself wondering how, why you three ended up there. I did too. And together in poor, each had a disaster, end of marriages, relationships, or are you childhood friends? Oh, just now you said a vow of poverty, so you are in a religious order or cult. I think it's really interesting to know, walk out of chapel naked is a great image.
So yeah, and the answer to that question is that we were all working together on a pilot program with juvenile justice offenders, and being paid government poverty wages and food stamps, for our efforts. So
that only leads to more questions.
of course it does.
But it's about shaking.
All right, but here, back to the book.
Oh, yes, please.
Any of the poems in the book will take you to the same space.
Definitely.
Space we've been in.
And I think it's about shaking a foundation and finding a new one without losing the old, at least for me. Lauren, what did you get, if anything, from our play?
Oh, actually, I there's a lot of little detailing that I enjoyed around, popping back and forth into, yes, there are memories which are connected to the space, and there are memories connected to the people. They're not necessarily, for the purposes of this particular story, they're not necessary but it was good to see, if you believe that we know more than we tell, it was good to remind myself of how big that field is for the path I've chosen to walk.
Excellent. You know, honestly, and working with you only makes me more jazzed to work with the dilapidated house that I was working with. You know, under each board, you know, there's so much to reveal, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we share that outhouse.
And,
But the whole idea is, I think that there's different memories for each person, and you know, and I think that that wood stove is pretty central, and just presenting it in a way that people understand it's not an evaluation, it's what happened. But in some ways, you're like, well, where is this? You know, and I'm
Yeah.
just talking off the cuff. Anything else you found?
Well, I enjoyed the color and advance exercise, so I will probably wind up using that.
Cool, cool. Yeah, that's the whole thing. We collectively steal or borrow or
That's
just find new ways to redo and replay. And Lauren, I've learned so much from you. So take color in advance.
Okay.
All right, let us bring, well, thank you, Lauren. Let us bring, well, first of all, let's bring our tellers back on board. And we have Vicky, we have Lauren, and we have Michael. As soon as I find him, there he is. All right, hey, let's give a wild round of applause. And again, if you want to put anything in the chat room, I do recommend highly, especially if you're the teller or just a listener, to save the chat room from those three dots so that you have any of the feedback. Just a very, well, I don't even have to show a screen. We are going to take a short break in monthly debut so that I can learn this new equipment. But we're going to be back. We're going to be back ready, charged. And, you know, what I tell my tellers is you're part of the debut family until you want to get kicked out. And I'm never going to kick you out. So you'll be invited again. With this little bit of time, I'm just going to ask in the order of telling, what did you get from the experience, either from someone's comments, from watching someone, or from the feedback, or a possible direction to go? So we'll start with Vicky.
Yes, 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 and yes. Well, as I had said before, it was really good for me to just trust that I have a reason to tell the story and kind of get away from what I have on the paper. It was really interesting to watch Michael and Lauren, because they have very different styles from me. And to see when you ask certain prompts, I think, oh, I guess they're going to do this. And then they didn't do that at all, which was really neat. That's really cool. It's like, we can't assume where those prompts will take us. And that's really so unique to that person's style, where those questions take you. You know, is it to other people? Is it to things? Is it, you know, that's very different for each of us. Is it to the present? Is it to memory? So really fascinating. So happy to be part of it.
And it's Vicky, thank you so much. And it's a strong reminder that it's not important to take the prompts or the feedback the exact way. It's just the way that you want. Play is about reacting, and this is the way they react. And you know, we just follow the just say yes. But you know, but we also stop and say we don't say it the same way all the time. Michael, how about you?
It's always intriguing watching other tellers. And it's especially intriguing in this setting because it's literally up close. And that's I consider one of the great things about storytelling is there ain't no one way to do not nary nothing. Everybody's got a way, and within everybody, you got different ways depending on the type of story that you tell. And when you hear folks, their cadences, their focus, how they paint their pictures, because we all paint pictures, but we do it in our own unique way. And it's always a joy and lovely to be a part of that, to watch, because you are a part of it. That's that dynamic with the story, the teller, and the listener. It's the dynamism, and it's cool and the game.
Michael, it's
You've
great.
done good.
Great. Hey, sure enough, we need to be reminded that as tellers, we also have to show the practice. We have to show what we do, not necessarily on the performance stage, but we have to talk about the craft. And one of the reasons debut is so we can talk about play and learn together. We don't do that enough. And that might be a reason why we don't have a large, well, we're getting a growing following of storytellers, but it could be larger. I know Lauren can speak to that as well, but let's give Lauren a chance to say whatever he wants to say.
Well, I'll start off by saying I agree with Michael, and I agree with Vicky, and I agree with you. I'm a very agreeable guy today. But I did enjoy it. I enjoyed. I mean, again, this is a story that I'm at Jonesboro. They've got the Jonesboro Slam, and it's still possible to submit a story for the Slam. And you gotta send in 2 minutes right off the top. And this is a story I think I want to send to the Jonesboro to see if they can get me on that stage for the Slam. I don't care whether or not I win, but I think it would be highly ironic on the 50th year of Jonesboro to be on that stage telling this particular story.
I think it'd be great. Yes, do it. And I'd love to see all your stories. We've had some people on debut say on national stage, this started on debut. And I love hearing that. I really, really do. And since we have a small, amazing listening audience, I'll give them a moment if they want to say what they took home, if they want. We got Nick, Margot, and Jody. You want to share a few minutes before we go?
I will. I'm trying to get it to where I can actually look decent. But in the meantime, one of the things that I like, and because I've been reading your book here recently about playing with story, and so trying to put some of those concepts, get a better understanding. So that's why I wanted to come. But I like this. I like this ideal of, I guess, like I don't want to say that. I guess forced creativity, or but I mean it in a good way, right? Like you get into a rhythm of how you create a story, and that becomes how you do it every single time. And the interesting thing is now that I'm a comedian also, so I go to writers groups for that, and they force you to try different aspects. And so as I'm starting to do that with more stories, I'm finding the same stories told different ways, and it's just pretty awesome. So I really enjoyed being here today.
Nick, it's great that you were able to come. And that book has certain exercises, but I come up with new stuff all the time. So we'll have to wait till the next one. I appreciate you playing with story. And if I can help, holler. Anyone else from the amazing connected listening audience?
Kevin, I'll hop in quickly, if I may.
Please.
It's Ichno from South Africa. So it's Sunday night, 9:30. So wonderful time to be listening to these stories. And from my side, I think there's a little story about an eagle that took a tortoise high up into the air. And as the tortoise went higher and higher, it saw more of the world and the surroundings. And I think that's what you've done tonight is you see the story from the first perspective, but as you go higher and higher through your questions, we see so much of the world of the story. And the story ends when the eagle puts the tortoise back in his colony, and he tells all the other tortoises, but they walk away. But one little one comes back to him and says, "Can you tell me where I can find that eagle?" And I think tonight you played the role of that eagle, and it's really nice. And I appreciate the storytellers who each expanded as you prompted them along. So for me, it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I couldn't say it better, so I won't say it. But I will say thank you so much for those wonderful words and insight. Anyone else?
Only just to say thank you, all four of you, for being there. Kevin is always interesting to hear and observe. And Michael, I don't know if I've seen him before, but I definitely would like to hear and see more of him. And Lauren, I have seen before, and Vicky also, and both of them were more than enjoyable. But Michael, where can I find you online next?
Oh, dang. Check out the documentary. The link is there. Email me, agriot@earthlink.net, agriot@earthlink.net. And I'll keep you posted. And I'll also send you some video of some stuff I have.
Jody is a great frequent contributor to Debut. So we appreciate you being here, Jody.
So what was that? agrio@earthlink.net.
Yes, it. I'm putting it into the thick of
Okay.
it right now, but yeah, you got it.
Well, I can't save the chat, so it doesn't help. But thank you.
You're welcome.
And anyone else? Margot, what was the impression?
Well, in the chat, she said, this has been very helpful. I picked up a lot of tips. Thank you. So,
Thank you, Margot. We certainly appreciate it. So the last thing we'll say is, as tellers repeat after me, I have debuted.
I have debuted.
Now it's up to you.
It's up to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back on Debut relatively quickly, but we'll take some time to retool. In addition to that, you will be getting a video of this so you can see wonderful, playful work and learn from it. Thank you on behalf of Debut, and thank you to all the tellers. Have a good day, evening, afternoon, and world.
Nanu, nanu.
all right, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Telly, let's see. End meeting. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Take care.
Have a great one.